So I've actually not skated in a couple days. I was sick. Basically, my last 2 days in Maryland and Pennsylvania, I was pretty ill, not feeling too good. I've been home for a couple days, didn't really skate. First day back. There's a lot of tricks that I want to kind of like learn and figure out today. Answer a question that I get a lot, which is like how I got my sponsors, or the best way to get sponsors. So throughout the video, I'll just like go through literally how I got all the sponsors I've ever had. Just do a quick little warm up on the flat bar. Kind of want to do some heel side 50-50s. We'll get to it. That trick. All right, I know if I just commit to the first one, I'll just do it. I'll start with a figure front board, give me some motivation. I honestly feel like heel side, you grind way faster, and if you're in the right spot, I don't want to say it's easier to hold, but it's definitely easier to grind a lot farther. I think it's good to have both. Yeah, they both serve a purpose. My knee hurts. All right, while I wait for my knee to stop hurting, it's been giving me trouble ever since Woodward. I think I just pushed it a little too far. So my very first sponsor, I guess, would be Charm City Skate Shop. Probably I was going there once every 2 weeks because it wasn't far from my mom's work, so I would just like hang out with her at work. I'd get up like 6 a.m., go through to work, and then 12 o'clock when they would open on a lunch break, she would go drop me off at the park that was down the street. And yeah, over time, just kind of got to know those guys. And then one day, the owner came out and I was skating. They had a 3-block. It was like the size of like a 9 stair, I would say. And back then I was really hucky, so I remember like he came out and I backflipped the rail, and then I frontside flipped the stairs, and then I looked up and I saw that he was like watching me, and like, you know, little, I guess I was 15-year-old Dan was all like, oh yeah, like owner's watching me, blah blah blah, like I'll do something else. And I ended up 360 flipping it first try, and then just doing some tricks in between. I just like started skating really good in front of him. And then I remember not really understanding what being sponsored really was. Like I knew that they had a team, but I didn't know what it meant. I just thought they were like a crew that would just go there all the time and they just were good. And then I remember this dude came out bar and he was just like, hey, like Jason wants to talk to you, wants to put you on the team. And then I remember like when I went in there and he was explaining to me that I get like discounts and I can skate the park for free. Like I was so confused. And I remember telling my dad about it and him just being like, yeah, it sounds like this guy's trying to scam you. Like it sounds like this guy's trying to like take advantage of you. Like, I don't know. Because we didn't know anything about like being sponsored to like that degree. Anyways, long story short, I got on Charm City basically just by skating in front of the owner. A bump to that low of the nose slide was honestly terrifying. Never really think about like holding long switch front 50s. It's surprisingly awkward. I think I should cross block the wrong way, like front people style. Yep, that did it. Try to battle a nollie crook. I feel like once I get into a go-bend, I can hold it. Not what I was trying. Wasn't trying that either. I got this thing where right when I get into crook, I want to pop out. Bad habit. All right, try to get back my arch nemesis, long back tails. Every time I like stop skating for a little bit, every break I take, I have to relearn back tails, relearn nollie heels, and I have to relearn frontside flips. So maybe I'll do all three, but yeah, holding a long back tail, let the battle begin. Yeah, I can do that all day. I can do that every try. But there's a different approach and a different lock when you hold it. When you do a back tail like that and you pop out, you never get fully on top of the ledge. You just let it dangle and it gives you a good spring out. But they said on a big one, you gotta be like all the way back. You gotta stand up, more weight on your back leg. It's not so evenly distributed. It's uncomfortable for me. That was almost the worst slam ever. I guess we get to get this A-frame thing. I feel like I gotta held them both a little longer. So the next thing I got sponsored by was America Shoes. And the way that I got on America was, there's a thing called reps. They basically make deals with the skate shop that you ride for, which is why it's good to ride for a skate shop first. It's an easy way to get your foot in the door, where the skate shop will show the rep your footage, and the rep usually has like a budget to flow people, or rep flow people, which is actually a different tier of getting flow. Like there's like flow where you're getting it actually from the team manager, and there's rep flow where it's just rep sending you stuff. And the owner of Charm City sent them some of my footage, and they're like, yeah, we'll send this kid some stuff. But a lot of times it doesn't matter how good you are to get rep flow. It literally is just like, oh, if this local kid who rides for the shop is wearing our stuff, that could influence other people in the area to ride our stuff. It's the same reason that you would get sponsored or turn pro, just on a much lower level. So they'll just basically send you stuff if you have any influence over like the local kids at all. I was getting like 2 pairs a month, which back then was way more than I was used to. I really was skating my shoes till there was nothing left but like duct tape and shoe goo. Like it was just like a shoe goo made of shoe. So 2 pairs of shoes was absolutely incredible. After that, I ended up riding for, let's talk about my favorite sponsor I ever had, which I didn't have, but I had it. I was at a contest called Top Shop, and someone who was like helping run like Pop War, I don't know if he was a team manager or brand manager or what, but he was there, he was skating the pole with me. And he seemed to be stoked on my skating, and he was just like, yeah, send me some footage. I was like sick. I sent him some footage. I've always wanted to ride for Pop War. It's like my favorite board company of all time. They hit me back and they're like, yeah, like what's your address, blah blah blah, we want to send you some boards. I sent him my address, and then the next email I got was like, hey, we just went under, sorry. So that sucked. I was definitely kind of bummed on that. And then after that, following year at Top Shop, I was there, and through this guy AJ, who's like a freestyler skateboard, he knew that I wanted to get on stereo really bad, and so he introduced me to the guy representing stereo at the trade show. Like gave me like a board right there because he like saw me skating the contest or whatever, and he was like, yeah, like send me footage. And then I actually ended up coming out to California and skated with some of the stereo guys. It was like Tony Carr was flow at the time, Josiah Gatlin had just got fully on, Elijah Burl was coming out with us a bunch, but he rode for Foundation at the time. It was kind of random. It was all through this guy Matt Williams, and this is also the time that I realized that making it in skateboarding is not for me. I remember we went to this like 13 stair rail. I remember I board slid it and I jumped on a 50-50, and because I wanted to front salad it, and I was like, I don't think I can like make myself like really do anything. But then Elijah Burrow was just like skating the rail casually, and I want to say he 5-0'd it, just like dorking around. Like no one was filming, he was just dorking around. And then he was like 50-50ing up the rail, he 50-50'd up like half of it, just dorking around. I was just like, oh, this is how good skaters are. Like this ain't for me. And then Tony Carr was like doing some fuck shit on some like wally gap. And it was very much so like, okay, definitely like more of like a big fish, little pond. I don't have the motivation or skill set to push myself to that sort of level of skating. Some skaters do. And just a little bit of pressure that I was feeling going out with those guys, I was just like, this is kind of like making skating super not sick. This thing right here is an absolute nightmare. It takes like all your energy, all your speed. You gotta kick turn on the oververt wall to get speed for it. So I'm only gonna try a couple tricks, because I don't want to waste all my energy on a manual pad, which is funny. Like the thing that takes the most effort here is a manual pad. Now if everything's first try like that, I might actually get a full session on it, but Even that one try, man, I'm tired. And I also want to do frontside flip switch manual. But I can ask for a lot right now. I mean, it's a good way to get frontside flips back. I'm gonna give it a real try, and then I want to fling a front heel switch manual too, just to see how it feels, and then I'll move on. I'll fling a front heel switch manual. I've never tried one before, and that I might be willing to battle. Let's play with this curve ledge because no one ever skates it. There's good reason though. I think these bars right here are terrifying. It's also kind of a sharp curve ledge. You honestly can't tell, but it's actually slightly slanted this way and goes downhill a little bit. Let's try it. I'm surprised that worked. It's like so sharp, it's like hard to pop out early because the ledge is still right in front of you. Honestly, kind of didn't. Second try, all right, go me. Another random Top Shop thing. Somehow Mike Sinclair got my email address and hit me up and was like, hey, we want to send you some boards out of something out of Tom Yetto. And I was like, oh, sick, Toy Machine. And I sent out my footage. He was like, definitely not Toy Machine. I'll send it to the foundation guy though. Forget who it was, but he hit me back and he was like, yeah, really good footage. Skate more handrails though. And I was like, no, that's scary. And at the time I was like skating a lot of handrails for me. So I was just like, oh yeah, that ain't working out. I ended up just stop hitting up stereo for boards because I was just kind of like, too much pressure was kind of taking away a lot of the fun for me. I ended up getting like flow through element randomly through this guy Chris that was like working at View Skate Shop at the time, and that was like just like a word of mouth thing. He was like, hey, check this kid out. And ironically they were just like some random flow thing, and they were sending me like 5 boards a month, which at the time was by far the most amount of boards a month I was ever getting. After that, I think 2 years went by. I was skating New York City a good bit with my buddy DJ, and my friend Trent was getting boards from 1031. They seemed like a pretty like laid back company. I ended up sending Christian Svitek some footage. He sent me some boards. I ended up going on tour. I don't remember what state we met him in, maybe Chicago, but it was sick. We like, Jason Adams was on the trip, Cyril Jackson, Rick Rossi, Donovan Rice. Oh, Matt Tomasello, the dude who is pro for Fancy Lad doing all that crazy stuff. This is before he got really crazy. He was already like kind of off the grid with a lot of the tricks that he did, but now he's like absolutely insane. So it was cool to go on a trip with all those guys. But at this point in time, I was like working a lot. I was like pretty much plateaued at how good I was gonna get at skating for how much I had to work. Like it's impossible to get better at skating and work a full-time job unless you're like something special, like you just have that something, or you're insanely motivated. And I was neither of those things. I was skating a ton, but not necessarily to get better, just because I like skating a lot. Pretty much got on them through Trent. And I don't know if you're noticing a common theme here, but I'll point it out towards the end. The next board company that I got on was Friendship, which was actually through Paul Zitzer, who was doing like Skate Park of Tampa stuff at the time. I think he still is, and he was like he was kind of like part owner with Tim. And also John Hill, ironically, was riding for it, as well as Jason Park. And right when I got on, Jason Park got off. And then, yeah, like I guess like Paul and John were telling Tim to put me on, and he saw some of my footage. And I rode for Friendship for like 2 years. A couple random flip tricks, some nollie heels for sure. So friendships under, and then I randomly am skating Courthouse, and there's like a bunch of dudes there, and one of the guys, he worked at Primitive, and he was so sick. I was riding some planks, I told him what was up, and he was like, oh, like, we'll give you boards. So I was like randomly getting Primitive skateboards, which is a hilarious fit. What was really funny was like my buddy Becker Dunn, who's like a really good skateboarder, was getting boards from Primitive at the time, and they were sending him, I think, 3 or 4 boards a month, and he was like actually on, and I was just getting the homie hookup, and I was getting like 6 boards sometimes. So it definitely pays way more to be friends with people than it does to be really good at skating if you're just trying to get free product. Way better than I expected. That's a cozy little corner right there. Figgy 5-0 here, but when I get to this bend, I got to get way over here, like I'm going around a regular corner, which I am. That's what I'm scared of. I'm sorry you had to see that. Yeah, pretty not happy with how long that took, but I did it, whatever. I'm slowly getting my body back. I ran with that a little bit until eventually I was skating at Huntington Van Skate Park, and DeVille was there, the PAL team manager. He was watching me skate from across the park. I moved out to California. I'm not like working myself into the ground anymore. I'm working at Keen Ramps, which basically means I'm like skating on my lunch breaks. You know, we only have half days Friday, so you almost have a 3-day weekend. Lots of skating going down. I'm feeling pretty sharp on my board. And he was just like, yeah, like, who are you getting boards from? I explained to him my situation with Primitive, where I'm like, yeah, I don't have to do anything. They just send me boards and I like it like that. I don't want to feel pressure. And DeVille was just like, oh, like, I'm down to do something similar and maybe we can work something out. So I end up getting on PAL, basically so I could ride flight decks for free, because that was pretty sick. Big fan of those. It's still all I skate. I start my YouTube channel. A couple months goes by. I start talking to Andy Schrock, owns Revive Skateboards, and if I come over to 3 Block and help push that brand, which I did. I went out to Ohio. I skated with the guys. I had skated with them before, actually. Really got along with everyone. Really nice guys. Say what you want about the YouTubers. You will be hard pressed to find someone who has been supportive to the skateboarding community and as good to his team and his friends as Andy Schrock. That guy bends over backwards for everyone. It's like him and Jim Thiebaud are like 2 of the most giving people in our industry. Huge fan of both of them. Round of applause for those 2 guys. But yeah, he took me under his wing, and basically the idea was I was going to ride for 3 Block and eventually have some sort of job behind the scenes with 3 Block. It made it seem like I could stop working any job that does nothing to do with skateboarding much sooner. But long story short, that was taking a long time. I think a year went by that I was riding for 3 Block and it wasn't moving as fast as I had wanted it to. And Andy totally understood. He was just like, sorry, we got a lot of stuff. I was like, I totally understand. And meanwhile, PAL was basically like, hey, we would love for you to come back, and then we have this, this, and this, and this lined up for you if you want to come over and do this stuff. Which I very much wanted to do that stuff. And I am doing that stuff now. Some stuff behind the scenes, all the YouTube stuff. I was still skating with Pal Peralta, like all the team all the time, because those were all my friends. I don't know if you noticed, but once I got on, like 4 or 5 of my friends that didn't ride for Pal ended up on the team. It's not a coincidence that the people that I'm skating with all the time off the Pal Peralta sessions are still on Pal Peralta. I helped get them on the team because they're my friends and they're all good. You put them in front of the team manager, he sees that they're good, yay, everyone wins. And long story short, that's how you get sponsored. It has, don't get me wrong, if you are good enough to get sponsored, you're probably gonna get seen and get sponsored. And being too eager and sending a million sponsor me tapes will end up being more annoying than productive for you. Honestly, just let your skating do the talking. 90% of the time that I got hooked up by anything, it was because they saw me skate in person and they interacted with me. You can really see how good someone is at skating when you see them in person versus their footage, because sometimes they'll do a couple gnarly tricks and then they disappear. There's been video part one-hit wonders where someone will put out this incredible part and then everyone's like waiting for the next part and it's like, oh no, that's all they had was that one part in them. They just had those 20 tricks that they could do on those gnarly obstacles, and they could never one up it. And almost every single time that I got sponsored, I knew someone on the inside. So if you're like in middle America or even California or out Europe or wherever you are, and you're trying to make it and no one's paying attention to you and you think that you're good enough to be sponsored, just be patient and just like keep doing what you're doing. It's better, as silly as it sounds, to move in silence and have people talk you up to these team managers than for you to just like pester them. I'm not saying don't send sponsor me tapes. What I am saying is the vast majority of people who get sponsored, it's not through a sponsor me tape. Pal Peralta gets sponsor me videos all the time, and they don't, like, they get looked at, but it doesn't show us enough. My phone died while recording that. But yeah, it's more like come out with us. Let's get to see how you interact with everyone, see how you interact when you get mad, you know, because that stuff actually matters too. If you're a little dickhead at the skate park or when you're around other people, people aren't going to want to hook you up. There's like millions of stories of people who were better than everyone at skating who didn't have a career as far as it could have been because of the personality. And possibly the most important, you need to know people. And the best way to know people is to come out to California. I know that sucks. It's not fair, but it's the easiest. You can absolutely get sponsored by not coming to California. Chris Cole did it. Lots of skaters do it. There's an entire European industry. Skateboarders on every continent who are absolutely murdering it. Japan has a booming skate scene right now. In fact, Japan has some of the best skateboarders in the world right now. But you got to get in front of the right people to get the right sponsors, and the right people actually have to like you. Skateboarding is pretty cliquey. It is very easy to get blackballed. Yeah, hopefully that was entertaining or informative or something. Regardless, I'm going to go home because Missy and me are going to Arizona. Goodbye.